Hi everyone, this video is for 7th grade science. We're in chapter 5, section 1 of natural selection. This should look a little bit familiar. We're in this textbook here. So we're in chapter 5, section 1. The section is about 7 to 8 pages long. What we're going to do today is we're going to do half of the section for today's assignment for Monday. And then on Wednesday, we'll finish the section on Wednesday. So let me zoom in here so you can see a little bit better. Okay. So there was this man, and this is all true. It's not like a fictional story here. It really happened, named Charles Darwin. If you want to know a little bit more about him, you can YouTube him, look him up, Wikipedia him. He wasn't the first person to come up with this idea, but he noticed that things were very different. I'm talking about like species and animals and plants in a very close area. So his job was a naturalist, it looks like the word nature. So what he did is he traveled on this boat called the HMS Beagle. And what's crazy is he spent 5 years of his life on this boat. And to prove that, here, I'll prove it to you. Here's a map of his journey. So he started from England, right here. And his travels went all the way around the world. What he's really famous for are the things that happened. I'll zoom in so you can see it. Right here in the Galapagos Island. But he went to South America. He even went to Africa. And he went to Australia even. And some other, New Zealand and some other parts. But what made him famous were his observations in the Galapagos Island. Now, one of your questions is going to ask about the Beagle. He left in 1831, so we're talking over 100 years ago, almost 200 years ago. And one of the questions was, what would be something difficult about traveling back then? Remember, no Wi-Fi. They didn't have GPS to navigate them. I'm sure they didn't have toilets on the boat. I mean, 5 years. That's over 1,500 days. If you get seasick, I'm sure there wasn't modern medicine back then when it comes to that. You just sort of had to tough it out. One of the questions is asking, what would make this journey difficult for this scientist or for just anyone? So that's something instead of just giving you the answer, I'm going to let you figure that one out. So going back to Darwin now, he made this journal where he made what's called observations. And then in science, it's very important to observe something, have a question, but then write it down. And he collected samples and he noticed the D word here, diversity. Things were super different. He looked at birds, turtles, and especially lizards too, on the Galapagos Island. And they were only found in that island. You couldn't find them anywhere else. So this will be our last page today, and then we'll take some notes. One of the big things he noticed was the tortoise. He noticed the different dome in the saddle shape of the shell. I'll zoom in so you see that a little bit better. You see that a little bit better? There we go. He noticed that how just the size of them, and that the biggest thing is because like Hawaii is made up of a bunch of little islands. He noticed that on every tiny little island, all of the turtles looked different. So it wasn't like every turtle had the same shape, the same nose, the same, they weighed the same, they looked the same. He was noticing, and his question was, why are they so different? He then went on to these birds called finches, where my finger is over here. And he was asking himself the same question. He noticed that from island to island, they were so diverse. And he was mostly fascinated with what their mouth looked like or what their beak looked like. So the small ground finch had a beak like this. This is definitely something you can Google and look up more on your own. And what he came up with is that the beaks were used for different reasons. So if a finch ate like nuts that had a shell, they would need to have a crushing bill so that they could eat and crunch that hard exterior that came with a shell. Probing means you can stick your skinny beak in somewhere and dig something out. Grasping means that they can grab it. So they almost had like fingers that they can pick up stuff easily and grab them. Here's some real pictures of finches. You can always look it up too. There's some more here. So the main thing from today's lesson is there was a man named Charles Darwin. Remember, you can always pause this video. He traveled for 5 years on this boat. And he went to this place called the Galapagos Island, and he noticed all the diversity. And then he came up with this theory that we're going to find out on Wednesday, what his hypothesis or what his theory was about how people and animals change over time. Let's take some quick notes, and this will be the end of our video here. So we're in 5.1, natural selection. April 27th is the day of this assignment. So Charles Darwin, he took a 5-year journey on the HMS Beagle. As you can see in this map, going all over the world, but his hotspot was the Galapagos, and it's a real place. You can look it up. I don't think you can go there anymore. I mean, I don't think we can go anywhere anymore. On the Galapagos Island. What did he observe? We got this. Mainly turtles or tortoises. I'll put turtle. Finch. And other species. You might say, so what? What did he notice? Diversity. From island to island. And what made him different was when he made these observations, he wrote them down. He had illustrations. And it was over a long period of time. So remember, you can always freeze. Sorry, my handwriting's a little sloppy because I'm reaching over the camera here. But hopefully this helps you with today's science lesson. We'll do part 2 of this section on Wednesday. See you next time.